Wholeness. Welcome to Notes of Nara. My name is Naja Rashida, and let's just jump right into it. I made this message find you well, whole, happy, at peace with yourself, with your environment, with your life. And yeah, I want to start off with Soul Key, how to identify them and how to use them. I mentioned them before. Soul Key is a term that I have, and I think it just naturally came to me during this whole journey this month of January of discussing soul, right? The journey of the soul. What is soul? The nature of the soul. Just exploring all of these different aspects of and my own personal insights and opinion and experiences with you. Um, but Soul Key, I've mentioned this before in several of my videos. What are they? How do we find them? How do we identify soul keys? Soul keys are they are the metaphysical uh, symbol of very important parts of yourself that you should only have access to. And unfortunately, we come into this world, we reincarnate, depending on how you view things. We reincarnate into this world, and we have spiritual amnesia, okay, where the soul is infinite, eternal. It can't die, it can't be reborn. It's there. It is nothing and everything and all in between. And our souls are just fragmented in such a way in this reality and in our current existence, because it's soul, it's oneness, attempting and trying to rediscover itself. And I don't know what and why that is. Why is it that you have a whole consciousness, and then that consciousness then wants to, in order to expand more, it fragments itself and it bursts into billions and trillions of little itty bitty pieces of itself, only to slowly work its way back again. And that will forever be a mystery to me, you know? Man, if I had the answer to that. But the soul key is pretty much like, think of your house key. Think of your keychain that you have on in your pocket, in your purse, in your bag, in your satchel, hooked to your belt. I know my grandpa, for whatever reason, I don't know, it's a dad thing or like a grandpa thing, but when I was very young, my grandfather, he had these very little, like, intricate rituals he would do. But one of them would be come down the stairs by like 2 p.m. because grandma and grandpa would stay up until like way past midnight, and he'd be out of bed like, you know, sometimes by 11 a.m., but sometimes he'd be fully clothed, ready. He'd have breakfast was his first meal. So it could be 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but breakfast was his first meal. But part of his wardrobe, you know, he had the shirt with the mini pins and the suspenders and the belt, you know, hooked up to the pants, and the pants all the way up past the waist, you know, very 1950s, okay? But he had a huge key ring and like 20, 30 different keys. And when I was a child, I was like, where all these keys go? Like, what secret doors are there? Because I was a very curious little girl. I was very quiet. I am like not even close to as talkative as I am now. I would never imagine myself making videos and sharing and talking. I never even really imagined myself getting on stage and performing and singing in front of people. I didn't have a speech impediment. I didn't have, even though I survived a TBI, I didn't have any speech issues at all. I just really refrained from speaking. And I spoke with my mother, my parents, and intimate, you know, people in my family, but I was not a conversationalist when I was a child. Um, mm-mm. Kids thought I was weird. Adults thought I was weird. But one thing I would do is I love to explore. Anytime I would go to someone's home, I had to go through almost each and every room, okay, to feel comfortable, to feel okay. My dad would tell me this, my mom would tell me this. It was a weird habit that I had. But so whenever I would see grandpa with this key ring and the 20, 30 keys he had on there, and they lived in a, like, by the time they're in their retirement, you know, they're 50s, 60s, they lived in a home that had multiple bedrooms. They had a den, and then they had upstairs, downstairs, basement. They had a backyard. They had a shed. You know, typical grandparents setup, you know, home. So nothing was ever locked, you know. But I always thought that was very strange. Like, I'm like, man, what kind of keys? You know, like the secret garden, you know. But I say all of that to say is we have that metaphysical set of keys that's so important, that we only know what keys go where and why and how and when to use them. Okay? Why to use them. When we need to be very cautious when people come around into our consciousness, right? And remember the 3 rings I shared with you in one of the videos. You have your public life, private life, secret life, okay? And I got that from watching this CIA, this ex-CIA agent, which I don't know how you can be ex-CIA. I always thought it was a lifetime commitment being part of the CIA. But they're masterminds. They master psychology. And so he shared the 3 rings of the 3 different lives. And so you have your public, your private, your secret life. But with the secret life, you have these keys, okay? So how can we identify our keys when we come and we reincarnate, or come through into this life, manifest physically into a physical form in this life with spiritual amnesia? What is spiritual amnesia? And spiritual amnesia, to me, and this is my personal belief from my personal experience, spiritual experiences and my own personal study, so believe what you will. But for me, and this is my personal insight, I believe that our souls, they are, how do I say this? It's going to come off as very blasphemous, I guess. But souls have direct contact with God. The souls have direct contact with the all. Direct, okay? And so when we come through this world, we have to have a spirit. The spirit is the channel that connects the ego body self. Matt, you know, I would identify as what? Female, middle-aged, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a teacher, musician, an artist. You know, I would identify with my religious background, all this other stuff, okay? That's ego self, right? Even to your body type, okay? You're big, fat, small, skinny, athletic, right? A bit lethargic or sloth-like. We all come in with specific characteristics that manifest into the physical form. The spirit you cannot see, but it is very important to keep that gatekeeper on point. Making sure that the spirit body is on point. You're doing your cleansings. You're doing whatever keeps that channel between body, the physical reality, and the soul reality. Okay? Soul consciousness, physical consciousness, you have the spirit consciousness. So, with amnesia, we are born, yes, unfortunately, we can't remember our past lives, future lives, other dimensions of ourselves. In order to get there, we have to have some level of spiritual commitment to our consciousness. We have to have a will. We have to make the choice to rediscover what we have forgotten. That lays latent in us. That lies latent in us. That lies in a coma within ourselves. And that's what we call spiritual awakening, right? In the New Age space. Oh, I had a spiritual awakening. And a reawakening of your consciousness. Reawakening of a soul key. You unlocked something that was already there within you. You didn't have to go out and hunt Jesus down. You didn't have to go out and hunt down the shaman or the guru. Something within yourself unlocked. And maybe those paths that I just mentioned you needed to go down in order to grab that key, in order to unlock, to gain access to that key so that you can unlock that door and walk into that room, right? You have access to that floor of consciousness. You remember when I mentioned the floor or the chakra centers, better yet, a building on each floor. So how you identify your keys is through primarily experience, life experience, trauma, success, disappointments, learning your gifts, your talents, what makes you tick, what broke you, right? What broke your spirit, what hurt your spirit, what fed your spirit, what kept your spirit open, what shut your spirit down. These are the keys that you must learn. Well, you have to find them within yourself. Then you have to identify them. Where do they belong? How to use them, right? So that you become master of the self. That is what white magic is. Black magic is when it's primarily feeding the ego. I'm a manifester. I want to manifest this. This is what I want to serve what I need. Black magic is very, very fragmented, very powerful, but very fragmented, not coming from a place of wholeness or service for the better good or the highest good. No. It's always very full of ego, full of attachment. So white magic is more of you are mastering yourself to be a better servant to the all. And that takes a lot of time. Black magic, you get things instantaneously, but with a price. Another video. So, and it's very dualistic. White magic, black magic. Okay, it's way more complex than that. Okay, I try to work in the area of non-duality, especially with the topic of the soul, because the soul is very neutral in this arena anyway. But I'll make another video on that. Okay, so when you identify, like for example, you get out of an abusive relationship or you have an abusive childhood, you start doing your inner work. And then your inner child reveals itself or herself, hisself to you. And the inner child says, here you go, here's a key. This key is called forgiveness. This key is called inner voice. This key is called confidence. This key is called love. This key is called creativity. This key is called innocence. Like, it's so very specific to you. It's so unique. It feeds your most authentic expression, okay? And the soul, because what I mentioned before, soul, it has direct contact to the all, to God, source, to God, the highest power. You call it universe, whatever. Many people have many names for it. God just keeps things simple, okay? Or source for me. But the soul, when you have your key, you know what your key is, you learn how to use it, you're like, I got a key. And then you pray, you do your rituals or your prayers or your meditations, and with intent, you ask, you open yourself to soul. You say, soul, how may I use this key? When is the best time to use this key? And the soul will tell you. This is something I can only go so far, because again, like you, I'm on the journey. I'm learning. I'm learning. I don't have all the answers. Disclaimer, okay? Major disclaimer. I don't have all the answers. I'm just as flawed as anybody else. So I find the topic of soul so freeing. It's during my silent fast this year, that was such a huge thing that bubbled up, was talk about the soul. And so that's what I feel called to do. But identifying your soul keys is, you know, a way to connect with it is really kind of reviewing your life. You know, the moments and the experiences that broke you, and the moments and the experiences that set you free, that liberated you. That's most important. You can't, and one of the videos about selling your soul, meaning selling your soul keys, okay? Well, selling your soul is like you literally, you give your spirit away. You give, like the gatekeeper. You're no longer, your spirit's no longer the gatekeeper between this world and the higher realms of your consciousness. Okay? When you give your soul keys to people in exchange for their love, in exchange for their attention, in exchange for their money, it's usually very egoic driven. All ego, all attachment. Many people, I have done this to survive. My mother has done it to survive. Many people do it from a very low nature space, where they give their most precious parts of themselves, which is the soul keys, the most high frequency parts of their consciousness, in to the people in the lowest realm, in their lowest nature. For example, think of Skid Row, okay? Think of Skid Row, all right? And I'm not judging people on Skid Row. I'm not in the least, but it's the frequency of that place, okay? It's historically the physical manifestation of lower consciousness. You got all kinds of different energies. You have people in the middle of psychosis, drug addiction, prostitution, SA, gun violence, all kinds of addictions. Just, I mean, rough, homelessness, just struggle, okay? And so sometimes individuals are assigned, through soul contract, are assigned to take one of their keys, okay? They are master of this key, and they can go and unlock certain areas in certain people that need it, that need direction and guidance, right? There are certain, there are certain people who have the angelic part of themselves is unlocked, you know, when they become truly a master servant, okay, in some form, and they're able and capable of going to the darkest, the butt crack of society, okay, the armpit of society, and they go there and they shed light and they help guide people in a very dark spot. All right. Because either they made it out of there, or they feel called to go there because they've mastered themselves enough and done enough inner work to where they have the capacity to handle some of that very, very fragmented energy. And Skid Row is one of those places. It's famous. It's world famous. All right. It's very well renowned place of struggle, of human consciousness. That's what I think of when I think of Skid Row, right? There's some people who grew up there in that type of world. You know, so your soul keys, they are important, okay? How do you use them? You're guided to use them. You can use your soul keys to do your inner work, but a lot of the time, when you've done enough inner work, then you're able to help other people unlock parts of themselves. You can help other people, guide other people to gain access to their soul keys, or to help them find their soul keys. Because sometimes we give them away and they're lost, and you're lost, right? It's crucial to understand this. Soul keys are it's almost like, for example, I'll make an example. You've been told as a child, you had such a bright light about you, and you had a big mouth. You love to sing, you love to talk, you love to sing, you love to talk. And then one day you meet an individual, a new family member comes in, and then they can't stand your light. They can't stand your freedom. They can't stand your beautiful voice. They can't stand it. And so they tell you to shut up, close your mouth. You have nothing good to say. They might even strike you in the face to get you to be quiet. And that breaks your spirit. That harms your spirit. Your throat chakra begins to close. And by the time you're a teenager or a young adult, you don't speak up for yourself. You don't want to create confrontation. You don't want to, put people in their place, or stand up for yourself or stand up for anybody else out of fear of being told that your voice doesn't matter. Okay? And so one day as an adult, you're like, you know what? There's a shift that happens, an event in your life that wakes you up. And you begin to do the inner work. You begin to review certain episodes where you were told to shut up and be quiet and don't talk, and I don't want to hear you. No one wants to hear you. We don't want to hear what you have to say. Do as I say, not as I do. You know what I'm saying? And so you begin to go back in time to feel those feelings, to feel those wounds, all right? That throat center, that throat chakra. And slowly but surely, you have the key. Inner voice is your key. And you vow never, ever to give that key away. And you hold that key with power. And now your words mean something. Now your words are heard. Now your words are felt. Or your song, if you're a singer, right? Or a poet or a teacher. People hear you. You're intentional with your words. You speak without fear because you have this key. You have access to your fragmented part, a wounded part of yourself that now you have access to through soul, through God, higher power, and no one can touch that. And you are unwilling to compromise this liberating feeling of power, the power that you have. You have the key now. Not that person or group of people, that kept telling you to shut up and be quiet, and you be quiet, don't say anything else, right? Yeah. Either we've been that, you've been that, or you know someone very close to you that was in that role. And that's just one little example of the power of knowing and being intentional with the key and when to use it and how to use it. Don't always show all your keys. Look at what I have. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't display all your keys. There's some keys that are meant for you to only know. And when you need to use them, you will know when to use them because you will be asked to by the higher power, by your soul. Very, 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 very important. Another way to identify it, let's just say sexual abuse. Thank God. You know what? Listen, I am not an activist. I'm a spiritual, in spirit I am. But I'm not one to go out with pitchforks and hold up signs in the streets. I'm just not, okay? That's not my thing. I'm an activist in a very different way. But I will say this. When Me Too happened way back in 2016 or 2017, 2018, 2015, I don't know. Okay, in the past decade, I'll say. And people started to open their mouth about the worst action anyone can commit to another human being outside of murder and striking them physically is rape and molestation. Okay? Being forced against your will. So when that took place on a very public scale, like you had women that were very well known, very celebrated, famous women coming out talking about the abuse in the entertainment industry. You had women coming out all neck of the woods, okay? And I will say this, when I started to peep that and I started to see what all that was about, and on a collective level of the human collective, the consciousness of the human collective, there was a shift there. Because it's a very nefarious act. It's so, when that act is committed on someone, you force yourself on someone, or someone forces himself on you, it's not just rape of the body, it is rape of the spirit. Okay? And sexual energy is by far one of the most potent energies on the planet. So much so people sell it. People buy it. Okay? People buy it, and it's, most human beings don't fully comprehend sexual energy. Okay? They just don't. They truly do not understand the metaphysical power of it. It's just something that feels good. You give 15 minutes or 45 or 2 hours and boom, and it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. You move on with your day. It goes way, 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 way deeper than what people can, an average human being can fathom. Another video. My point is, that is one of the most important keys that all beings are given. All right? It's not a key of sexuality or no. It is your life force energy. Life force energy is a very important key. Very important. You can give it any name, you know what I'm saying? But it's the power behind that key. And human beings, we manipulate people with it. We control people with it. We abuse people with it. We sell it. We buy it. We break it and make it and fold it into something. It's really very interesting, our species, and what we do with something so powerful that we fully don't really comprehend. And then they say in the Bible, be fruitful and multiply. That's all we got. Luckily, there are other sacred texts that go in a little bit deeper, explanation of such a powerful thing as life force energy or sexual energy, but life force energy. Okay, people do some crazy stuff with it. Another video. My point is, and the example that I'm using is let's say, that act breaks a man or a woman's spirit. It can take decades for somebody to make peace with that. That is a key that is very hard to reclaim, because the amount of shame, guilt, blame, hurt, pain, violation, it's unimaginable. And yet, I have so much faith in the human species, because men and women have survived such nefarious and disgusting acts. And they still move on. They still live. They still do what they need to do to get through the day. But to reclaim that specific key is very difficult. And it can't just be you. You can make the choice and say, hey, I want to take back this key. This key is mine. You actually need support. You need guidance. You need therapy. You need people to talk to, a circle of men or a circle of women. Because it happens to men too. Don't get it twisted. That's another thing about the whole Me Too movement and people coming out openly talking about their sexual abuse or sexual assault. It happens to men and boys just as much. Don't even get me started with children. Yeah. So, soul keys. Right? It can take a lifetime to know how to use it properly. But awareness is the first step. Awareness is the first very important step to take. And when it comes to soul keys, I don't want to make this video too long because it's such a beautiful and very kind of a heavy topic. You know, there's another key, sovereignty. The key of sovereignty. You must claim your sovereignty. I claim my sovereignty and power of my highest good, and I align myself with my highest purpose. The key of sovereignty is very, very important. You can lose yourself in other people. You can lose yourself in a career. You can lose yourself in ideologies. You truly can. You know, another example would be nationalism, communism. I think of, you know, back in China. Okay? 1920s, all the way leading up to, well, now. You know what I'm saying? But when it was really bad, you know, communism in China. Now it's more sneaky, but it's very active. They still control their people. South Korea. Or no, not South Korea, North Korea for sure. But if you can, like, imagine the soul key of the collective of North Korea or in China, right? The collective of that nation, they gave away their soul key. They gave away the key of their sovereignty to the government. What started out really great and, oh, this is going to be awesome. Like, all of us are in it to win it. And it turned into a complete nightmare that they can't break out of because it's systematically programmed. I was reading somewhere, I was listening to, an interview of a woman that she escaped North Korea. And she's in the U.S. now, but she said that they didn't have words like rape or assault or abuse in North Korea. They took out specific words in the dictionary so that if something were to happen to you, you wouldn't even have the words to describe what happened to you. You wouldn't be able to put together certain ideas to create a certain ideology that's different from what they're programming into you. That's deep. That's some deep, dark stuff right there. It's almost like taking the words out of the English language, like freedom, liberation. You don't even know what those words are, but you desire it, you seek it out, but no one uses the word because they took the words away. Yeah, you can give away a whole country, a state or a town, a city, state, family. A whole family a whole bloodline can give away a soul key. And that causes generational curses because the family, the bloodline is compromised. Because you gave away the soul key in the bloodline. And so the bloodline weakens. Especially for Black Americans. Okay? For melanated peoples that live here, that were taken from other places and brought here. Soul key given away. And whatever, I can only go so far. I don't even know much about my own bloodline. Another video, another day, another discussion. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know the practices of my the specific practices of my ancestors. And to be quite honest, side note, I have family members that are actively doing a lot of research right now, so that's going to be really cool. Very excited about that, but end of side note. But yeah, it can affect a bloodline and a family. It can affect a country. It can affect a town, a nation. There are soul keys in the human consciousness, and it's not just individual, it's everyone. And I find through all these shifts, even down to like things like there's so many things that are very odd and weird that are happening culturally and socially and politically, and I find it very, very interesting. So yeah, that those are just some of my thoughts. I know some of the examples are pretty heavy, but it's like this is real, you know? It's a real experience, and awareness is, it's almost like, and here's another way to identify where your, you know, what your soul keys are and how to use them. It's almost like, you know, when you have moments where you feel like you lost something, but you can't name it. You can't name what you lost. That's when you need to start investigating. And when I say losing something, I'm not saying a physical object. I'm saying something in your being that is so important, and so, but it, like, it used to be there, but it's not there anymore. Like, one more example, I'm going to wrap up this video. A marriage, a 20-year-old marriage. It was something was there in the beginning, and then towards the end of the marriage, it's not there anymore. And then the couple has a choice. Either they can do a full circle, part of the life cycle in relationships. They can do a full circle and find themselves again. Because that's one thing that's so interesting about long-term relationships, marriage, you know, spiritual marriage, that they find each other and then they break apart to then find each other again. And at the beginning of this video, that's what I mentioned, that it's like consciousness is continuously it's unified, it's whole, and then it fragments itself into millions and billions and trillions of little pieces, all just to find itself again and become whole again. And when you can see it in a marriage, you can see it in relationships. And there's always a choice where the couple has to make a choice, like, okay, we can try to find the soul key to our relationship, or we're done. And a lot of people give up and let it go. They don't put that effort into finding the key. Sometimes they're not meant to find it. So, thank you so much for tuning in. I know this was a little bit longer than I intended, but may this message find you well at home, and take care. Thank you.